So in September, we talked quite a bit about peace. And as I was thinking about peace and thinking about our center, I was thinking, our philosophy or religion is really, yes, we're peaceful, but what we're really noted for is being a healing center. And so I wanted today to just talk about the healing of conditions. It is really this belief in our ability to heal through the power of affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment, through our thoughts, is really one of the very most fundamental ideas of our teaching. And yet, even among people who have been studying our teaching for years, it can sometimes seem a little unbelievable, the things that really do happen. So, inside your program today, I actually printed out a little kind of summary on this side of the page. Some of just a list of just some of the actual results that people have told us about who have asked for spiritual mind treatment over the last year and a half or so. You don't have to read it now, it's yours to take home. But I think that when we are working with the idea of spiritual healing, if you're just in isolation, it's easy to think, well, that was just a coincidence. That was just random. But when you're in a group and you start sharing your experiences, it actually helps build faith. And that's one of the most important things that we need to do when we're working with healing principles, is to build our faith. Just like, Jesus is said to have declared that it is done unto you as you believe. I guess it's whatever translation. So belief is very central to what we teach. And while probably most people who hear about a healing, not necessarily in our circle, but when I read the news or something and I just hear about people's reactions to amazing good fortune or healing that someone has had, sometimes I'll say, oh, that person who experienced that healing or that wonderful good luck must have been mysteriously singled out by God for some particular reason or purpose. Now, this reaction implies a few things. First of all, it implies that somewhere there is this unique being named God who could do anything it wants to, but instead only chooses to do certain things for certain people, leaving the rest of us languishing in do-it-yourself mode. And so let me be absolutely clear. We do not we do not believe in a God that plays favorites. We do not believe there is any kind of a supreme being with superhuman qualities that lives in the sky or anywhere else and orchestrates what's going to happen on Earth, like some kind of a puppeteer engaged in some kind of a battle with an opponent or an evil force. We do not believe in a God that plays favorites at all. However, we do believe in God We do believe in a creator or a spirit, or you can just call it life. You can call it whatever you want, but we do believe that this spirit, the spiritual milieu in which we live and have our being, this thing that we refer to as God, does actually respond to our prayers and to our thoughts without playing favorites, without prejudice, but in a very normal, predictable, and orderly way. So then, you could say, well, if there isn't a God that plays favorites, then how can we explain why it is that some prayers or thoughts seem to be answered and some don't seem to be answered? Or why is it that some situations or conditions seem to heal easily and other situations or conditions just don't seem to budge at all? Sometimes it just feels like we're just stuck. Sometimes things get worse. What's going on? Well, in religious science, our idea of healing is perhaps a little bit different. Or you could say it's perhaps more expansive than the typical definition of healing. But I just want to say it's still a simple process. So if you just think of an example of healing, let's take the example of when you get, a paper cut or a little cut on your finger, something simple. You probably just wash it, put a Band-Aid on it, and as you're doing it, you already know that in a couple of days you're going to take the Band-Aid off and it's going to be fine. You don't even really think about it. It's such a part of you that you know that cut's going to be gone, that your skin's going to knit back together, and when you take the Band-Aid off, you're going to feel happy and grateful that it's healed if you even give it a second thought. But you're not going to be surprised that it healed, because we all know and understand that this healing of small wounds is a perfectly natural process. We accept it as a normal part of life, a normal function of our bodies. Some wounds heal faster than others. Some people heal faster than others. But overall, it's normal, and we just expect it to happen. You could also say we have faith that it will happen. And it is a type of faith that's based on real life experience. It is a type of faith that does not depend on whether you believe in this or that religion or philosophy. A cut is going to heal along the same lines, whether it is on the skin of an atheist, an agnostic, a Buddhist, a Christian, one of us in this room. And a cut will also heal on your pet dog or on an elephant. It's a totally natural process. It works in the very same way. Nature doesn't play favorites. It just is. Now, as a teacher of religious science, I might explain the healing of a cut to students at class in this way. I might say, well, the finger, or the person who had a cut on their finger, had a condition. The condition was a wound. And that was an unwanted condition. But that condition was not what we call the truth about the finger. The truth about the finger was that a finger is just a finger. It ought to be normal and functioning. And so that truth about the finger was restored through what we call a process of healing, which led to the revealing of the finger's original wholeness, or the perfection of the finger, which then resulted in a healthy finger. And that's what I might say to you, but why would I make it so confusing, right? And yet a lot of times when we read books about New Thought healing, it can feel like, whoa, it's more complicated than it needs to see, to really be. But the reason is by understanding how it works in a really small example, we're also able to understand how it works generally. Because as we say, it doesn't matter whether something is small or something is big. The natural processes controlling the erosion of a pebble are the same natural processes that control the erosion of Mount Everest. It's the same natural world in which we live. And spiritual principles also work the same, whether we're talking about something small or something that seems to us to be different, larger, more challenging. The thing is that when we're talking about conditions, when we're talking about unwanted conditions that we would like to see changed, we need to understand that these unwanted conditions are temporary in nature. The cut was temporary. The key concept is that when there is an unwanted condition, sometimes, when we say, is there a silver lining on something, sometimes an unwanted condition or finding out about something will cause us to put our attention on, oh, I don't like this. What is it I wish instead? So it can be a wake-up call. And that's when we have a desire to have a healing or have a change. And once we have this desire, if we have faith in the way that natural laws and spiritual laws work, then we can begin to generate an expectation of healing, an expectation of change. And then, since we expect change, we can have faith, and it might be that there'll be certain steps that we need to take. So, if you have a wound, you might want to wash it before you put the Band-Aid on. You don't want to just say, oh, there's nothing for me to do. Our thoughts and actions can be integral to the process. Then we have the process of healing, resulting in, finally, the manifestation of the new wanted condition. And then we can have a feeling of gratitude. In these examples, whether it's the healing of a cut finger or whether it's perhaps getting a new job, we need to see what it is that we desire, that we want. And then we need to begin to build an idea within ourselves of what it is we would like instead. The cut is easy, getting a new job. Maybe someone feels quite hopeless. Maybe they've tried for months and they've failed. And in that case, that's when you can turn to your friend, you can turn to a practitioner or a minister, you can turn to someone else and say, can you know this thing about me? can you know this for me? And that's what practitioners do, is we know for someone else the truth that their desired condition is perfectly possible. And how do we know it's possible? We know it's possible because of the world in which we live. We live in a universe of infinite, that is simply infinite. We do live in a universe where all things are possible. But when you're completely overwhelmed with a situation, it's a little hard to shift into that. Whereas if you go to someone else and you say, I'm not feeling well, can you know that I get over this illness quickly? It's like, oh yeah, of course, because I know the truth about you. You're a very healthy person. You're perfect, whole, and complete. It's easy. It's easy for me, an involved person. I'm not feeling challenged by this illness or whatever. It's easy for me to know for someone else that even if they are facing a diagnosis of, cancer or whatever, I can still know a truth for them that all things are possible. Because through experience, we come to understand that healing is possible. And that through over and over seeing healings occur, you reach a point where you can do spiritual mind treatment or affirmative healing prayer with a faith that is as strong as the faith that you might have if, say, you took a glass of water and poured it in the sink, and you would have faith that that water is going to go down the sink. It's not going to go up in the air. It's not going to disappear. You just know this is how life works. I can count on it happening. So, inside, on the other side of the sheet that I gave you in your bulletins, on the other side is a copy of our Declaration of Principles. So there are some centers that read this Declaration of Principles every week, but we don't do that. But I thought I would just pass it out today and ask you if you want. I'll read it to you so you don't have to. But the first paragraph in our Declaration of Principles, and this was actually written almost 100 years ago by Ernest Holmes, and it's still what we believe. It's certain fundamental things are just true in the same way that water runs downhill are true. So the first paragraph contains 3 sentences that I think are really powerful and that explain a lot. So it says, first, we believe in God, the living Spirit, Almighty, one, indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. So if you think of God, I don't know what kind of religion or non-religion that you might have grown up in, but a lot of people grew up with the idea that there was an entity that you could call God, and then there was some kind of opposing entity that they might call the devil. So I just say, no, this thing that we believe in is you have to go back up everything that you can possibly think of as God to something even greater, something even more infinite. And however you can picture infinity, it's more than that. It is consciousness. And it is the cause, what we call first cause, of everything that we experience. And that's the second sentence. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. So we believe that everything, our bodies, the air, the universe, whatever universes are undiscovered still, all of it is actually made out of the substance of spirit itself. That spirit creates through its own, not a thought like we have, but through its own self-awareness. And that's all there is. And that this manifest universe, this universe that we experience, whether it is a solid object or a thought, all of it is the body of God. And this is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. So we believe that. So a condition is simply anything in the manifest universe, in our body or in our surroundings or in our affairs. It's basically how things seem to be at any given moment. Oh, Spirit or the Creator is the cause of all. And to quote Ernest Holmes for a moment, he said, Spirit is changeless reality. Spirit is never bound by the form it takes. Spirit is never affected by any apparent cause or condition. Spirit is forever free. Spirit not only fills all forms, but surges around them and through them. So we can think of Spirit, this changeless reality, as the first or primary cause back of everything. And while we, meaning ourselves as individuals, can be very creative, we don't actually create substance. We create this or that through the use of what Spirit has already created, right? So if I make a picture, I don't create the paint out of nothing. I create, or someone creates a paint out of something, and so on and so on. If you make a cake, you're using both material things, like flour or water, and you're also using non-material things of thought and feeling. You know, like the idea or the desire that you would like to cook something nice for someone else to eat. So we set creation in motion through using both tangible, material, and intangible, invisible aspects of Spirit. You know, Holmes said, think of it like you think of water. Ice is formed from water. All ice is some form of water. It's like that. God and man exist in an eternal state of unity. The solid, the world of manifestation, and the liquid, representing the world of Spirit, are one substance. And this is why prayers and thoughts are answered. It's a result of our oneness with Spirit, our freedom. We have freedom to choose. And we have freedom to think, to form what you could think of as ideas, visualizations, ideas in our imagination. We call them mental equivalents of what we would like to experience. And then Spirit or God, being an impersonal principle, responding to us without prejudice or favoritism, responds to our thoughts in accordance to our faith and belief. And that's the reason why some things seem easily healed, easily changed, and other things are not challenges for Spirit, they're challenges for us. They're challenges for us to continue working with the idea to continue increasing our belief that the possibility for good exists. And when we are able to move from confusion to settling and making a decision about what we would like to experience, to work with it to the point where we begin to recognize that it might be a possibility. And that's why sometimes for me, I'll think about, like, someone who needs a particular healing, I'll think about someone else who had that type of a healing. So I'll know, oh, so-and-so found a job, this person can find a job too. It's possible. You know, it helps bring us into the feeling of possibility. Then, once you recognize it as possible, it's easy to move into a state of expectation. That expectation is exactly the same thing you felt when you put the Band-Aid on the paper cut. Like, yeah, it's going to happen. I expect it. It might not happen by dinner time, right? But it's definitely going to happen. I don't have to worry about it happening. I know this is a process. Also, we don't have to control exactly how it happens. I don't need to make a list of, I'm going to get a job and it's going to happen this way, this way, this way, this way, and this way. No, I'm going to be open to however it unfolds, and I'm also going to be open to understanding, intuiting, or recognizing the things I need to do. Oh, maybe I need to, for a job, maybe I need to call a couple of people. Maybe I need to post my availability on, the internet or something. Those are simple things. And they're going to be different in each situation. And sometimes, many times, things just happen. They just do. This is the power of spiritual mind treatment. Positive thinking and knowing that all things are possible. I thought I would give an example. I have given you the list on the back of the pages, but I wanted to give you my own example because I don't really like to talk about other people without them saying, oh, you can talk about me. So I want to give an example because sometimes it can be confusing. What exactly is the condition that needs healing? So I thought I would share that when I was young, my husband and I were newlyweds and we wanted to have children and nothing happened, right? So we were unable to have children, and so I was really sad. I was feeling just somewhat hopeless. But we were able to move through that feeling of disappointment and see the true. What was the true unwanted condition? It wasn't whether or not I got pregnant. It was, did we have children? Did we have a family with children? Once we saw what the desired condition was, once we were able to make a mental picture of what we wanted was a family, a larger family, then it became crystal clear what to do. So we applied for adoption and went through the bureaucracy and were able to adopt 2 sons. And you see, we didn't know in the beginning what the healing would be. We didn't know in the beginning what it was we really wanted. In the beginning, we were just like, oh, this isn't going the way we expected. Something's wrong. But once you realize what it is you truly desire, then everything becomes possible. Sometimes it's not what you would have pictured. Many times there are healings that it might be sometimes you think, oh, this and that has gone wrong, but the healing is to achieve a sense of peace about the situation. That can also be true. We don't need to decide what's good for another person. Each person has their own way of working things through. But the thing is that it is possible to make progress. It is possible to have a change. It is possible to be happy. And that's the basis of all healing, is to move us back into that state of harmony and happiness. So, Ernest Holmes said this: we're dealing with an impersonal principle. It's going to operate or work for one person just as quickly as for another person because of its law. It is the way the world, the universe works. So, dare to speak. Dare to know that what you speak, what you desire, is the law unto the thing spoken. That yes, this good can unfold for you, regardless of what conditions exist. He said, always expect the good. Know this in your thought. Work with it in perfect peace and calm. Have enthusiasm and have a consciousness of love. Allow that radiant feeling to flow through your consciousness at all times. And treat yourself. Work affirmatively with your thoughts until you have an inner sense of unity with all good. So that is the healing of conditions. How to do it, how we do it in a nutshell. The key to healing is to stay calm, to trust spirit, and to always expect the good. And that's the way it is. Thank you.